Capcom, makers of some of my favorite titles throughout the years. Digital Eclipse was fine too. They get a sound effect when Capcom didn't. That's a little weird. Capcom made these games, but who am I to judge? That's right, it's the Mega Man Legacy Collection. This covers 1 through 6 of the classic series, and if I'm gonna be doing the thing I'm planning on doing, which is basically, if you haven't been keeping up with me on social media or anything like that, I should probably make an update video covering this. Every Monday, I'm going to be uploading a new Retro Let's Play episode covering different games. And I can't really talk about retro gaming without talking about Mega Man. This is a series near and dear to my heart. Even though the Nintendo Entertainment System was a little bit before my time, we had one, and Mega Man 1 and 2 are very important games to me. I played them a lot. Mega Man 3 less so, but, you know, that was when I definitely played a fair share of, too, back in the day. 4, 5, and 6 I didn't get to until I was about, like, middle school age, but, you know, I really do like these games. Mega Man is just, in my mind, I think it's my favorite platformer series, if I had to choose one. It's definitely the one probably the one I've played the most. Maybe Mario is a close runner-up there, but honestly, probably Mega Man, just because these games are quite hard, and it takes some time to really play through and figure out how to play them, and obviously each game offers its new gimmicks and different stages offering new mechanics and stuff like that you gotta get used to, and they get really creative with them. This is a series that maybe isn't necessarily known for its innovation, but really just a masterclass in a lot of platformer design, in my opinion. For my money, these are some of the most difficult yet fair games in the 8-bit gaming library. I think that these are still very playable to this day. Obviously, there's some stuff that can be fairly bullshit, especially in this first entry here, but this first Mega Man game in general, even though it's close to my heart, and I think I probably like it more than a lot of even Mega Man fans, purely just because it was one I played a lot as a kid. It feels a little undercooked in some regards. There was definitely some kinks they needed to iron out in future entries, and thank God they did, because Mega Man 2 is one of the most, you know, famous, just high-quality platformers ever made. I tried to juke out that Bullet Bill ripoff enemy there, and yeah, I didn't really, I really wasn't able to, so I took the hit there. Yeah, a lot of this, I didn't even really do much in terms of practicing for these first 3 games. I just kind of went through and recorded playthroughs. I probably play through... I definitely play through Mega Man 2 at least once a year, probably more than that most years, honestly. It's a game I can just go through in an afternoon and feel good doing. Mega Man 1 I played quite a bit, but, you know, not as often. And Mega Man 3 I've played enough. And look at this, in all my years of playing this game, I've never had that happen. That was just... I don't fucking know. I can't even explain that. I've never seen that before. Very bizarre. Yeah, you gotta be careful with these Sniper Joe enemies. They block you with their shields. Unlike future entries, too, you don't have just a simple boss corridor hallway. You gotta deal with some stuff leading up to the bosses. So we're about to fight Bomb Man here, which isn't too tricky. Normally, I personally start a lot of my playthroughs with Cut Man, just because in my mind he is the easiest Robot Master and he has the easiest stage, too. This stage can be a little bit tricky, partially because it throws a lot of enemies at you in places where you can fall into spikes or, you know, off of cliffs or whatever. And unlike future entries in the series, even when you're in your little invincibility recovery, like flicker state or whatever, you can still instantly die from spikes when you land on them, so that can make this game a little tricky. And then especially, too, once we get to the end game portion, this game throws a lot of bullshit at ya. So luckily I'm used to it, so, you know, I'm doing my part here. I'm already saving my state here. What am I... Oh yeah, I'm just showing off the little different filters and stuff. I wanted to show off a little bit of the front end here. So yeah, you can see that you can make it look like it's being played on a TV, make it play like it's being on a monitor there, but we're not going to be playing with any of that. I usually don't like to do borders and stuff when I'm playing through games of these collections and stuff like that. And honestly, too, I know it's kind of the style for a lot of popular Let's Players to to add borders to games that are in a 4:3 aspect ratio. I never really care for that decision either. I like to just let the black borders rock. It's just a little bit less distracting in my mind, and I don't know. I just think it looks better this way. But, you know, maybe I'm in the minority on that. I'm not really sure. Let me know in the comments. How do you feel about borders around games that are more, a little more squished? So yeah, part of the reason I usually play this game by fighting Cutman first is I usually I do Cutman and then Bombman, and I usually just take both of them out with the Mega Buster. And then I'll go through, and then my third boss will be Elecman, and then I'll replay Elecman's stage to get access to the, I believe it's called the Magnet Beam, but basically it's a hidden item you can get that makes platforms, and you can skip over this very difficult part of Gutsman's stage where you have to deal with these conveyor belts, and, I've always sucked at dealing with these, and I thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna try my best for this Let's Play to show off the proper boss order for this game. Even if I lose a shit ton of lives, I'm gonna do my best and see if I can make it work. And I actually did pretty well, all things considered. Usually I'm pretty bad at dealing with those conveyor belts. They just have very strict timing for when you need to jump. But I made my way through. And yeah, one thing that you're gonna see me do for a lot of spots is these games, actually compared to a lot of other games, are tend to let you tank through enemies a little bit easier than others, especially this big fucking Stomper Pogo Bot. Every Mega Man game has a variation of an enemy like that that's really big and will try to ram into you by hopping around, and you have to either run through or do whatever. So this is what I'm doing here. So I want to go into the boss fight making sure that I have plenty of health. So I just decided to walk back and forth and fight these Me-Tools here and just store back up on my health. Once in a while in these games, you're gonna find spots where it's like, it actually just makes logical sense for me to grind here. So, yeah, I decided for your convenience, and so you didn't have to watch me go through this entire process. Yeah, I just went through and shot back and forth and grinded for health, and I wasn't having the greatest luck in the world, so at some point I decided to call it quits. I did get a 1-up during one part of that, though. So yeah, Gutsman is weak to these bombs, which he's not too bad of a fight, and he's actually a boss that's pretty easy to tank. He'll paralyze you like that, and even when you are paralyzed, you can still sometimes find the time to jump over his projectiles. This is just a weird position to be in all around. His pattern's a little odd with how he jumps sometimes, but part of it was the fact that my throws at the initial start there were a little bad. And every time he jumps, he doesn't necessarily grab a rock to throw at you. But yeah, we made it out okay. Another thing, actually, that's a little weird compared to later entries is you need to grab that thing at the end there to win the fight. Normally, what happens is you beat the boss in the other games, and then Mega Man just stops moving, and the victory theme plays, and he warps out. But for whatever reason, they make you grab that little shiny orb thing. Don't know why. It's very bizarre. So now we're gonna go through and fight Cutman, who, in my mind, like I said, is probably the easiest stage and boss in this game. Also, this game has points, which is a thing that never came back. I think I talked about this in that Ninja Gaiden Let's Play I just did, but I've never been one to care about points, and I definitely feel like this was the point, haha puns, in gaming, where more and more developers started to realize that people wanted to play through for the sake of reaching the end and seeing the ending, and it wasn't so much for, you know, leaderboards or trying to get a high score or anything like that. So I think it makes sense that they dropped it. And you're gonna see, you've probably seen them already, there's these little colored balls that drop when you defeat enemies, and you pick those up for additional points. These things are always really annoying, but they don't deal that much damage, and they're pretty easy to deal with because they don't move around. If you're familiar with some of the later Mega Man entries too, you may notice the lack of a slide or the ability to charge up your Mega Buster. That wasn't introduced until the third game, which added the sliding, and the fourth game, which added the charging. Never necessarily been the biggest fan of the charge. I'm kind of happy that with 9 and I believe 10, they decided to remove those, just because I think it was the developer. I can't remember. Someone who was important with Mega Man, I don't remember exactly who, said something like, yeah, I never liked the decision to have the Mega Buster charge, even though a lot of people wanted it, because when the average player goes through levels, then they just feel the need to hold down the fire button and just preliminarily expect danger, and it kind of takes some of the fun out. And I've always kind of agreed with that, because when you're not charging, you're kind of playing unoptimally, and it can really make it feel like you're just listening to the charge-up sound for most of the game and holding that button down for way longer than you probably need to, just because you want to make sure you're prepared for whatever's up ahead. These things can be a little annoying, especially when they're in tight quarters like that. I think I killed these just because I wanted to see if I could grab the, I guess I didn't kill that other one. I wanted to see if I could grab a health pickup or something. And yeah, when you got too many moving enemies on screen, there's some slowdown, as to be expected. Patience is a virtue with these games, as with a lot of difficult platformers. You don't always got to be making progress and rushing ahead. It's easy to maybe tank through a lot of enemies in this game, but you know, it will catch up to you eventually, and you want to make sure that you have enough health and lives left over to deal with the boss at the end. Because Mega Man bosses are brutal. The Robot Masters, as they are called, don't always have the easiest patterns to deal with, and they can really drain your life quickly, especially in this first game. They deal big boy damage, as I like to call it. Especially Elecman, who can kill you in 3 hits. Possibly less if you go in with less health, obviously. God, I really should have been dodging those. Those are not hard to deal with at all. I really wanted to, I normally don't actually fight this boss with the guts, you know, the guts arm or whatever it's called. So I really wanted to see if I could, beat that thing just by throwing the rock at it, and I couldn't. So I just decided to take the hit there because I didn't want to spend a whole tunnel session grinding again. So I just decided to go through and, you know, lose a life for the sake of going in with a full health bar. And here's a little tip here: if you time your shots accurately, you can destroy these things before they trigger. For the ones on the ground, you have to wait for them to trigger, but you can, if you're fast enough, you can blow them up before they even get a shot off, so it's not too bad. So yeah, get ready for a very fast boss fight. Not much to write home about, just pick up the block, throw it, and done in 2. It's a pretty fun fight if you go in with just the Mega Buster, though, because he throws out the little scissors on his head like a boomerang, and you gotta jump inside and then jump out before it comes back and hits you, and shoot him so that he bounces back when you hit him with the Mega Buster. Very good first boss fight. I know I've said that a lot, but it's honestly, I think, a very good just first Mega Man stage in general. It's not too difficult. It kind of shows you the ropes of what you can do and what to expect from a stage. So yeah, we're already halfway through, so let's go ahead here and fight our 4th Robot Master. Probably my favorite of the Mega Man 1 roster, and I think maybe one of my favorite Mega Man Robot Masters designs in general. And also, I love this music too. God, that's another thing that you can't talk about Mega Man without talking about the just incredible soundtrack for each of these games. First game's soundtrack is pretty cool, but the second and third really amp things up. And you're going to want to grab Cutman's weapon before going into the Elecman stage, because these little fucking Roombas on the ground here that you will, they definitely will fuck up Mega Man's ankles, and if you are standing parallel to them on the ground, they'll go faster, which is another common enemy design. And there's these little weird things that I don't even know what to call, these little beanstalk pod things that will like to throw you off of ladders with annoying electricity. You can time your shots and kind of space yourself so that you go between them and you can take care of them, but they're also annoying to deal with. And of course, what would a Mega Man game be without some disappearing block puzzles? Taking my time to refamiliarize myself with the patterns. These can be tricky, especially if you're... yeah, and I fell. Wonderful. Wonderful. Falling down 2 screens. Luckily caught myself, but yeah, never a fun time. Yeah, disappearing block tiles can be a tricky thing, especially kind of what happened there. If you are kind of stuck inside of one when it's spawning, it will push you in all sorts of awkward directions and sometimes push you off of ledges, like kind of what happened there. It's a tricky thing to time out so that you're on top of them when they spawn in. Eventually you can get the timing down. Once you get used to them, they're not so bad, but some are better than others. Like this one here isn't too tricky. I could go for the stuff on the bottom there, the little weapon energy, but I don't need it. In my opinion, this life is a little annoying to deal with, so most of the time I don't grab it, even if I need it, just because most of the time I just want to push forward and I don't want to risk falling at that part of the game. And that one is always going to hit you while you're going up that ladder there. More Roombas. Nothing that Cutman Scissors can't deal with. Please, you know, do not feel too bad if I keep calling the Robot Master weapons the wrong names for the rest of the game. Really wish I could grab that one up, but that's not going to happen. I'm on the wrong side. But yeah, I recognize the weapons more by their letter than I do their actual proper name. I think this is called the Guts Arm, but yeah, you can clear out those blocks if you have the Gutsman weapon and grab the Magnet Beam, which will make some platforming segments in this game a little bit easier, thankfully. Actually, I think you need... I think I said it was optional, but I do think you need the Magnet Beam to progress in the later stages of this game, if I recall. I think it's a non-optional item, actually. So I think at some point you do need to go back and grab that if you haven't grabbed it your first run-through of this stage. And yeah, one thing you will notice, especially in this first game, is sometimes they will kind of copy and paste some segments like this. We just went through a very similar area like that not a few minutes ago. Those electrical timed beams really hit hard if you're not careful. And of course, got to deal with another Pogo friend before we can make progress here. And yeah, I kind of screwed myself here. So yeah, I don't know what I was trying to do there. I think maybe I was trying to get lucky. God, I know I said it already, but I really love this music. I like the look of this stage too, this abandoned factory-looking place. Yeah, it's never fun dealing with these guys on this specific screen. Usually you're gonna take a hit or two. These games have fairly generous checkpointing, but at the same time, when you're right before another checkpoint, you really start to feel how long sometimes it asks you to go. Yeah, just because I don't think it's happened quite yet. Well, actually, it did last time around, but the boss tunnels are always a checkpoint, so as long as you get through those doors and you have lives remaining, you know you're fine. If you do end up game overing in Mega Man, luckily it's not like your progress is completely, you know, lost or whatever. You can continue on, and it just brings you back to the stage select. But you will have to go through whatever stage you game overed at all over again. You lose your checkpoint, so just be careful about that. But, you know, most of the time it's not too bad. Once you go through one of these stages and you kind of have it fresh in your noggin, it doesn't take too much effort to really get back to where you once were, in my opinion. It just takes a little extra time, I suppose. And once again, the stage is definitely another reminder that patience is a virtue. There we go, showing off the magnet beam here. Just make your own platforms. I always like platformers that have little weapons like that. They just say, yeah, fuck it. Just here's a finite resource to let you make your own ledges so you can get over some parts that are maybe not so enjoyable. Let's see, can I make it? Oh, no. Yeah, I don't think these things really have a well-established jumping pattern. Maybe some people who have really analyzed it could maybe say, like, oh, yeah, here's how you predict the high jump, so you always know when to run under, but I'm not that good. My hands always get really sweaty going up this ladder. I always, like, really psych myself out. Like, because of that, honestly. It's just not fun. Getting knocked all the way back, having to make that progress. I know someone watching is like, oh, you better start playing Snake Eater, but I'm not going to do that. This ladder's not nearly long enough. Alright. Most tricky robot monster. Let's do it. A little bit of life left. We can do this. We got it. Oh, no. He's just going to jump on us instead. Next time, we will defeat a Luck Man. I promise you.